know, it's kind of funny when we're off at these different logger shows. Normally, it kind of gets to feel like that movie Groundhog Day, where it's just the same thing over and over again, and we get the same questions, you know, over the same two models for 4 or 5 days. You kind of get things ingrained into your head. And the first question that everybody always asks, how much? So for once, I'm actually going to tell you the prices of these units live on a video. So if you're watching this video beyond, oh, we'll say this week or into like next year, these prices may not be accurate, but for right now, it's early September 2020, and this is the HWP-140b. The normal suggested retail price is $17,500, and we often sell this wholesale for $15,500. And this being the 120 version, we sell it for $8,900 as a fixed four-way. This unit does have the adjustable wedge in it, and we upgrade that to a price of $94.50. So yes, it's an extra $550 to get the adjustable wedge on the 120. The nice piece about that is, though, being adjustable on either model, the 6-way wedge that fits in this one also fits into this one. That's why we have them displayed here with the same 6-way. And also, being adjustable means it's removable. So if you're looking to just cut rounds for your outdoor stove, then you have that opportunity to just lift the wedge right out. And if you're happy with cutting the 6-inch, 8-inch, 10-inch, whatever fits in your stove without being split, take the wedge right out, cut your round, and just push it out the end without actually splitting it. The other piece is you can take the pin right out of this and let the 4-way ears crash down on the I-beam, and you can split it like a 2-way. So if you're in that, say, 10, 12, or 14-inch range that you just want to crack it once, you have that option. Or you can drop in a 6-way for doing the retail sale worth of stuff. So again, about $15,500 and $94.50 as you see them sitting here. The 6-way wedges are $650 by themselves, or we will do the 6-way in lieu of a 4-way for just an additional $250. Both units come as a 14-pin plug and play. So that's the big aluminum round plug on your machine right above the hydraulic quick connections. You need to have at least 5 function buttons inside the cab, you know, whether it's on the joystick, so 5 individual buttons, or 3 switches. That way you get a top and bottom, so there's actually 6. And what that is you have the table forward is 1, the table back is 2, the grabber arm down is 3, up is 4, and the saw is the 5th function on that. If you don't have that as an option, we do a in-cab harness, and that's, I think, $650 for the in-cab harness. That gives you the 2 button controllers that go on the zip tie onto the joystick harnesses themselves. So it's just, you have to give us a phone call or shoot us an email over. We'll build a full quote for you. As always, if we have something here on the woodlot, you can pick it up in person. We'll do a quick, you know, walk around tips and tricks and different things that we do. We spend some time with the customer, just thankful that they're coming here, or that you're coming here to see the product itself and load it up and get it out of here. And I'm going to move the camera now. We'll just do a little bit on the 140 and a little bit on the 120. So the hydraulic specs on both of these units are actually the same. I need 15.5 gallons per minute at 2850 PSI. So yes, they are a standard flow attachment. 15.5 gallons a minute at 2850 PSI is the bare minimum spec. If you don't have that, on the 140, we can actually change out the splitting cylinder to a larger diameter to still get you the splitting tonnage that you need to push everything through the 4-way and the 6-way wedge. But the table is just a little bit shorter on the 120, so we can't accommodate that larger cylinder. So 15.5 gallons a minute, 2850 PSI, standard flow. Now when it comes to the actual units, if you look out on the very end of the table, you'll see how there's like some extra bevels and extra angles put on the 140, and here on the 120 it's just kind of a straight piece. It's nicer on the 140 if you have any kind of a protruding limb or a knot or something hanging off it. That angle helps it float up and over and come across the table. The next thing that you'll see it's different are the actual arms. The 140 arms are a little bit longer, a little bit more level coming out from the table. The 120 arms are a little bit shorter and a little bit more of an aggressive angle for coming up. This does one of two things. When it goes for shipping purposes, we can leave the legs on the 120 and they actually fit together pretty well if you're putting two on a pallet. Now with the new design, if you saw the video from yesterday, these legs are removable on the 140. So from here out, you take this 3/4 inch bolt out and the arm actually comes off, and it's really handy for putting this unit in the back of a pickup truck to take to your house. Because it's so wide, the bed rail for the pickup truck would always kind of line up with these arms. You would have to put stuff underneath it to either tip it or bring it up above the bed rail. So that was a really good design idea to make these arms removable, and it's really simple and really easy to do. The next biggest changes we're working down this direction is the actual grabber arm itself. It's a lot thinner from the underside. You have these heavy cleats that are welded into it for an aggressive grab. Then on the 120, it's curved and we actually cut the teeth into the side. So I always tell folks, if you're in that 16 to 18 inch diameter range on the 140, that's really key. And then like that 14 to 16 inch diameter on the 120 is kind of where it likes it the best. Both saws do have a 20-inch cut. Both machines share the same bar and the same chain. The next piece that's different between the models, there's a Parker saw motor on the 140. It's actually an external bent axis type motor, just because the way the hoses and everything go in, it was easier to put this on the outside, which puts an extra step into changing the chain that we went over yesterday. Then on the 120 model, the saw motor is actually inside the processor, located down in behind the grabber arm itself. And as we continue this way, the table on this is a lot taller on the 140 than on the 120. So I'll swing the camera around and you can kind of see the two differences there, and go over anything else that happens to come to mind. Stay tuned. All right, I'm gonna have to do a walk around at each individual unit to kind of show you these differences in just a quick review, but while the two are side by side, if you look just down the bar, this is the saw motor as the external bent axis piece on the 140, and then on the 120 you'll see it just kind of comes down to that flat face. So the motor is actually on the inside, and if you see how the teeth are kind of cut into the sides of the grabber arm versus having these little welded in cleats as a heavy duty piece on the 140B. The other piece that we need to note on this, it's the 140B weighs about 1,650 pounds and the 120 is about 950 pounds, again depending on what wedge you put in it and that kind of stuff. The other similarities that I forgot to go over are both share a half-gallon hydraulic oiler or bar oiler. The 140 is an external, the 120 is an internal, and beyond that, we'll just do a quick walk around review on both of them. All right, so again, we'll start here at the end of the table. You can see the extra angles that are kind of put on this that let any protruding limbs kind of pop up and over the table as it slides in. The arm is a lot more straight and flat out, a little bit longer, and again, it is now removable based on this bolt here. That's the seam where this part of the leg comes off. Half-gallon oiler is on the outside. Here's that grabber arm with the welded in cleats I was telling you about. I can get the lighting to agree with me here. So then we'll move this over to the actual saw motor itself being external. Get a nice little step there for getting in and out of the cab. And then here you can see how tall the table is as it comes into the trough. And the 140 does come standard as the adjustable wedge. And the other part that actually makes this the HWP-140b is there is a log length cut guide on this that I forgot about in the previous two little sections, so I'll walk around the back here. And all it is, there's this new measuring rod right here on the back of the table. See if I can get this to zoom in so you can see it. And what it does, you loosen these bolts, I believe they're 1/2 inch, and you can slide that back and forth. We do have a setup video online as well. So that's the newest addition to the 140B. And then both units now carry a 1-year manufacturer's warranty. So where the hoses come in from the side, you'll see you have a your serial plate here, and that goes on the warranty card itself that you fill out and either send back to me or Halverson directly. So this is the 140B. All right, so now we're over here on the 120 model. You can see the difference here in the back of the table on just how it's just a straight cut off. Sometimes you can get a limb that'll hang up on that, but usually if you give the bucket just a quick little shake, it'll usually pop up and over that, and it's not too big of a deal. There is no cut guide on this one. Some things that we've done, we've bolted on some extra things on top of the wedge that just bump the log early as it comes in. I'll show you that here in a second. But serial number is in the same place. The hoses come in. And there's our 120. There's the serial tag for this unit. So the arms have a little bit more of an aggressive angle to it and are, again, just a little bit shorter than the 140. Still have a punched out tread plate. The half-gallon oiler is recessed down inside for just more visibility looking out over the top of the table. Here's that grabber arm. Just again, the teeth are kind of cut into the side of it versus those heavy welded on cleats. The saw motor is located down inside the case behind the grabber arm. It makes it a little bit easier for people to change out the bar and chain on this. Again, just a difference there in the grabber arm itself. And there's the bar and saw, or bar and chain. So like I said earlier, this 120 does have the adjustable wedge on it. So that's what it looks like here. You got some different settings on all of the wedges. It's a 1-inch pin that goes in across the bottom. And the splitter trough itself isn't as tall right in through here. And then again, you can see how much shorter the table is. That actually helps with that last log to get that to slide in properly. But we can't put the bigger cylinder in this if your machine is down on the GPM or the PSI. Okay, now that you are armed with all of the information, or at least all of the information that I'm remembering at this point, you're probably going 15.5, 9,400 bucks, 9,400 bucks, 15.5. I have a quarter in my pocket. I could flip one for you, and then we'll call it heads is the 140 or tails is the 120. But the way that I pitch these two units, neither unit is a homeowner unit. Even though this is 9,400 bucks and it doesn't have a lot of the bells and whistles and commercial pieces that the 140 does, this is nothing that I would ever consider a homeowner unit. Because one, a homeowner probably doesn't have an outdoor stove. A homeowner isn't processing their own firewood with a skid steer or something with that 15.5 gallons a minute at 2850 PSI or more. They're the ones that are buying the firewood bags behind us, bulk loose firewood. That's what a homeowner is doing. How I pitch the 120 is a homestead, farmstead, rancher, firewood startup type of thing where you are doing between like 10 and 100 plus cord a year. That's where the 120 really shines. Now, if you are a person that values a lot of heavy duty components, build quality, extra features, and you are starting out as a firewood company and looking to grow with the same unit year to year, that's the 140B. You have a Parker saw motor, you have just a regular saw motor. This is kind of like cutting firewood with a Stihl 290 Farm Boss This is like an 881. You're using a Home Depot splitter versus a commercial grade splitter. I don't know how else to draw the contrast between the two. Both do sport a 3-inch cylinder. It's just this is an off-the-shelf cylinder. This is a custom-built cylinder. This handles the oil a little bit quicker than the 120. So production-wise, you're probably 3/4 of a cord to a full cord an hour. This is minimum of a cord an hour plus. It's really easy to attain that with the 140 because you're cutting it faster and you're splitting it quicker. Now again, you have to remember that quantity in is quantity out. If you're feeding it all with like baseball bat size stuff, you're never going to get the big cord count. But if you're in that 12-inch, 14, 16-inch, you know, kind of diameter, then that's really obtainable on either model. We work off a mixed size pile here behind me. It's everything from 6-inch to 16. And with that, I'm doing a full cord in about 35 to 40 minutes with this, and about 45 to 50 minutes with the 120. So that's my own personal take on it. You know, it's not all one size standard. We did work remotely a few years ago with a 140, and I did get 3 cords an hour out of it, but we were splitting all 14 to 16 to 18-inch size stuff, and I was literally going from the pile about where the camera's at to over top of a conveyor, and we were loading a triaxle out. So it was an 8-hour day. I know how many trucks we filled, and I'm pretty good with math, so I know it was 3 cords an hour. But beyond that, so again, you have a homestead, farmstead, rancher, firewood startup, full-on commercial, you know, pounding out huge cord counts every year consistently. Glenn Halverson knows what it's like to be back in the bush 5 miles and have something break down, so that's why there is so much more stuff built into this. You know, weight-wise, again, you're looking at 1,650 pounds versus like 950 pounds, so there's a lot in this. It's also kind of built and designed for the bigger frame skid steer. Some of the stuff they're coming out with now, 105, 110, 115 horsepower, and you're picking up, you know, 4,000 pounds worth of weight, and you know, it's just, it gets incredible with the hydraulic numbers that some of these newer skid steers are attaining. So I wouldn't put a 120 model on one of those large, huge frame skid steers like a Kubota SVL 95 or, you know, a Bobcat 870, you know, type machine, but I would put the 140 on there. Again, it just has the extra gussets and strength, you know, and thicker gauge steel just kind of built into it versus the 120. So I hope you found this video educational. Hopefully I answered more questions than you're coming up with right now. And again, I'm AJ Shaver with Shaver Sales. Be happy to get you a quote. We do ship nationwide. Either one of these units kind of ship inside of a box van. We've been using FedEx Freight recently for getting them around, so we do actually send a tracking number so you can see it leave and show up at your doorstep. If you do have a business option for dropping this off at, it does help the shipping quote just a little bit. Please send us an email. It's sales@shaverequipment.com, or you can call the corporate number, which is 833-SPLITTER. That's 833-775-4887. And I'd love to talk to you, answer any more questions that you have, and work on a sales quote for you, and hopefully we get to earn your business. And as always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe or check us out over on Facebook, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.